He's good. He's right here. He's right over here watching cartoons glued to the TV. We just got back from the park, so
Okay, okay. How old is he?
He's 4. He'll be 5 in December.
Okay. My boy just turned 5 a few weeks ago.
Okay, okay. Well, happy belated birthday to him. But everybody, we are live. Danny Samir Search for Who. We want to have the brother Abuah on with us again today. And today's subject is how the upcoming Nigerian election will affect the Black diaspora. Now, Ghana has put in place a huge initiative, which was already somewhat in place, but I guess they're really going to implement it now in regards to, descendants of the slave trade not having to pay for visas to enter Ghana, and then also not having an easier route without all the red tape in regards to gaining citizenship. Now, this is what I know about Nigeria just visiting. Nigeria has close to 200 million people and is growing. Nigeria is the largest Black market in regards to Black people, not Black market as far as the streets, but Black market on the planet. A lot of people say where Black America goes is where the world goes somewhat as far as the influence. But Nigeria has the opportunity to kind of somewhat overtake that. Why do I say that? Heard a white man on Drinking Champs, the 6'3" Israeli. I forgot his name, the record executive. All the rappers swear that, all the rappers say that this guy has screwed them over. I can't think of his name. I forgot. He was saying Afrobeat from Nigeria is about to probably overtake hip hop and R&B here in America. And they, Jews, whatever, they control the music industry. So, and they say, go ahead.
Leo Cohen. Sorry, I just remembered his name.
Yeah. Leo Cohen, exactly. He said that on Drinking Champs, and that raised my eyebrows. Leo Cohen, that raised my eyebrows. He said that Afrobeat coming out of Nigeria is going to take over hip hop and R&B. When he said that, I'm like, okay. So, and the thing is that as far as with the influence that Black America has had on the world, it started with, now correct me if I'm wrong, Abuah, because you lived in Africa and you're in the UK. It started with the music, the culture. Am I right?
Sorry, with you mean the American culture?
Right. As far as Black American culture.
Okay. Yeah, I think music is, and of course, music is a very integral part. But I think also the politicians, the thinkers as well.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely. As far as entertainment always has the widest reach. First of all, my brother, let me say thank you again for having me on.
Come anytime.
I feel very spoiled for 2 days in a row. I'm very spoiled.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just turning my phone off.
No problem. So anyway, yes, I think for entertainment in general was one of the major roads in. I suppose if you go as far back as people like Dizzy Gillespie and just blues singers, all the way to James Brown and later to hip hop, Black African American culture has impacted Africa in general through music. But I think also you cannot forget even Marcus Garvey's Negro. Forget the name of, my mind escapes me. The monthly newsletter they used to publish. If they published it in New York, but he used to go to the so-called colonies in Africa as well. So as far as you people have always had an influence on us for a period, but I think when we talk about global African culture has always influenced the world, period. Moorish period, you look at the periods during the Kemetiu period. I mean, every single thing about the world is influenced by African culture, from science to music to sport to everything. So, it's just a different trend now. Now the trend is moving away from the States to Africa. And it'll probably be, once it's at the moment, it's the vibe is with West Africa. They'll probably move to South Africa. Remember, there was even a time when South Africa was the popping place, when Lion King was coming out and everything they did was had Zulu or Kota language in it. So, you know, these are, you know, it's just the trends will keep changing, but it always remains with African people.
So this Nigerian election is very important. Now, a lot of people are somewhat disappointed because they're saying that they're just recycling the same old politicians and that they need new energy, new young energy. Now, do you know by chance the percentage of people under 40 in Nigeria right now?
It's 75% of the people. They say officially 70% of the people are under 30. So under 40, I'm not quite sure. It's probably about 75%. But you have to also understand the life expectancy in Nigeria. If Nigeria is 58 years old, and the life expectancy of Nigeria is less than the age of Nigeria. So, you know, there are not a lot of old people there. The older people that seem to be alive tend to be wealthy and, you know, have a very sordid past. Anyway, go ahead. You were making a point, I think.
No. I mean, it's just, so with that being said, but you have these old leaders, Buhari, what's the new guy? Atindu. Am I saying his right name?
Atiku Abubakar.
You have him, and then you have a lady who's very connected to the West. Her name is Obi.
Yeah. I mean, Obi Ezekwesili. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. She's very connected to the Black American community.
She's more of an activist. In fact, she's not really you can't really include her as a candidate. She's just one of those, what would you call her? You call her token, you know, she's doing it to prove a point rather than anything. In terms of the real candidates for this election, you have the two major parties, APC and PDP, which are basically, they've just been, you know, people move back and forth. They wake up in the morning, they're APC, in the evening, they're PDP. So, you know, they're pretty much the same people. Then you have the outsiders. Now, APC and PDP are the traditional parties. PDP was founded, 20 years ago is when they officially came into power under Obasanjo, when democracy was returned to Nigeria. But these parties pretty much, when 1985 happened, there was Babangida was in power as a military dictator, and by 1990, he decided, you know, we're going to have free and fair elections. So the political parties that were formed then were pretty much the same as PDP. They just went as a different name. Then you had another 5 years of dictatorship, and then you had PDP coming officially in 1999. So for the past 20 years, PDP has pretty much been ruling, except from 2015 when APC won. Now, Buhari was the candidate for the APC. So those two are the front runners.
Right.
Then you have the outsiders. This is one of the first elections where people who are under what they call so-called young people under 50, under 45, are actually running, and there is a yearning for these people to take over from the traditional parties. So aside from APC and PDP, you have, I would say, three candidates that are you really have to take into consideration. Number one is a guy called Fela Durotoye. So he's the name, I believe he's named after Fela, but he's I wouldn't say he's kind of like a motivational speaker. He's an entrepreneur type of guy. Then you have Kingsley Moghalu. He's another viable candidate, very well educated. I think he worked at the either the UN or one of these World Bank or IMF, one of these places. So, and then you have Omoyele Sowore, who we've talked about a few times. So he was founder of Sahara Reporters, student union activist from University of Lagos, been in prison numerous times, living in New York for the past 19 years, you know, exposing corruption for the past 12 years and throwing his hat into running for president. So those are the three guys you would say that have a chance outside of the traditional guys. But of course, they have their own battles that they have to contend with, because, you know, Nigeria, the big business always backs the big guys. It's just as simple as that. It happens everywhere in the world. But these guys, if they do win, they will have to, the idea is that they will have to come together and form some type of coalition. Now, just in August, 23 new political parties were formed.
Wow.
And one of them was AAC, African Action Congress, which is Omoyele Showore's political party. Now, that political party is one which has a more Pan-African viewpoint, clearly by the name African, having African in it instead of Nigerian or whatever. Now they, just to in fact, I've contributed to them, so I'm not under any, I'm not trying to make out that I'm unbiased. I am very biased. That is the party that I want to win, because of the way they think. You see, for a start, one of the things that they said that relates to the African American brothers and sisters is they said that they would make it very not just simple, but anybody who has any kind of DNA affiliation to Nigeria, they will make them automatic citizens. This is one of the things that they said, and they're the only political party that's saying anything like that. So I think that ties into our subject tonight. So I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, but so pretty much the election is out of Buhari and
Atiku Abubakar. Let me just give you a little bit of background.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much true. In fact, let me back up for a second. Since Buhari is currently still in office, I've heard mixed reviews on Buhari. How do you feel like what Buhari did this term?
Oh my God, Buhari. Well, I mean, he's been president for 3 years now, 3.5 years. The majority of this time he spent in hospital in the UK or in his private home in the UK attending medical treatment.
People said, sorry to cut you off, people said that, and then you could respond to this as you finish your statement. They were saying that they loved his vice president, did a very good job as he was being treated. What are your thoughts on that too? But go ahead. Sorry about that.
I mean, where is the evidence of what the Buhari government has done to benefit anybody in Nigeria other than the people who come from Daura, which is his village? No, there's no evidence. I mean, it started out. You see, Buhari was president 1983 to 1984. He came on through a military coup. Right. Now, him and a man called Diaspora, this is when he was in the army. When they came on, they had this thing called war against indiscipline. So the idea was Nigerians all of a sudden had to queue at bus stops. There was curfews. People started, the plan was to rid people of corruption. And basically, he even chased. They're given a very important story called the Decay affair. I've actually written a screenplay for it, where he sends some Mossad agents to go and kidnap a minister who had stolen 100 million and run to the UK. It was unsuccessful, unfortunately. But the idea is he was trying to get the money back. Now, what happened when a counter coup happened and he was removed from power? Obviously, he was put in prison. But for the nearly 30 years that he was out of power, he didn't really do anything with his life. He wasn't on the board of any companies, nothing. He just sat back, right? And all of it. And the thing that people liked about him when they elected him is that he was somebody who was seen to be anti-corrupt.
Right. That's what they're saying.
But the reality is he did absolutely nothing. He was also head of the NNPC. In fact, he was a minister of petroleum about 30 years ago. And he looted, just like the way all of them loot from the NNPC, which is the National Petroleum Corporation. He looted too, and the nepotism, my brother, over the last 3 years since he's been in power is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's literally people from his town and community that he's putting into power. Now, as far as qualified people, I don't know if you're aware, he came into power. He was inaugurated in May, I think, 2015.
Right.
It took him 6 months to appoint ministers. 6 months. So the country immediately fell into a recession, which we're still recovering from at the moment. In fact, the recession caused, obviously, what recessions do is they cause a domino effect, and obviously things become inflated and things become even more difficult. Now, let's talk about power and let's talk about fuel subsidies. Right now, the fuel subsidy that was really a shambles under Goodluck Jonathan, where fuel was supposed to be at a cost-effective price for the people, was removed during Goodluck Jonathan's time. So Goodluck Jonathan literally ruined the corruption of Goodluck Jonathan was terrible. So when Buhari came in, people thought that would be lifted. In the end, fuel prices just keep going up. They haven't changed. Now, what about electricity? Electricity, as usual, has been a problem. And I distinctly remember the first 6 months of him being in power, there was a lot more electricity. But all of a sudden it's gone. In fact, for long periods, you don't see electricity. And that is also down, that's not necessarily down only to him, but that's down to also the people who are involved in buying and importing generators and all these other things. Because, you know, it pays them to stop the country from having electricity because people will buy generators. But anyway, I digress. Let me make my point. The point I'm trying to make is Buhari, in the 30 years that he waited to come back into power, even though he campaigned 5 times, I think it was, for presidency, and won on the 5th time, he did nothing. And since he's been in power, nothing really has been done to benefit anybody. In the first year of him being in power, he tried to go to London and try and do all sorts of deals, trying to recover money that was stolen by different politicians. He tried to, he took some people to court, to be fair to him, like the Senate President Bukola Saraki, who was a thief, former governor of, I think, Kogi State. He's a thief, took him to court, but what's happened to the court case? Nothing. The man is free. You know, so look, there have been few gestures, but nothing's really been done. And Yemi Osinbajo, who you were talking about, the vice president, look, he's an articulate man. He's a pastor. I think he's a lawyer as well. I think the only difference between him and Buhari is that there's no record of what he's done in the past, except in business or, you know, in his church life. Other than that, you know, being number 2 to somebody who's away on hospital treatment is not really much of a job. And who's to say that anybody would take him seriously? And another thing with Buhari, his wife. I don't know if you know anything about his wife.
Well,
his wife has been. She's been the most outspoken critic of her husband. She's the one who constantly is talking about how people have hijacked her president, her husband, how you know, she doesn't even think she made a comment a few months ago that she doesn't even think she'll vote for him in the next election. You know, so these are just, you know, I mean, if you compare him to Goodluck Jonathan, maybe a little bit better, but then that's just like comparing, you know, an SS stormtrooper in Nazi Germany with Hitler. They're both there doing bad things, you know?
Yeah, but now Buhari's daughter is in the news a lot.
Yeah, I mean, which one?
Is there
one that got married?
Aisha? I think, is it, or
Aisha Buhari? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what happened recently, but there was a very early on in his candidacy, in his presidency, there was this very lavish wedding. I don't know if you're aware of it. Where his daughter got married to this was a wealthy family, and you know, I don't know if you know about Nigerian weddings, Dynasty. I'm sure you know. The lavish.
They're outrageous. They're outrageous.
They're giving out like golden iPhones to all the guests. You know, it's very ridiculous. Flying people in on private jets. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you know, he got heavily criticized for something like this. But then not just the daughter, the son. Earlier this year, the son, who really is. I don't know what he does for a living. He was on a motorcycle speeding through his town, had a crash, and on government money, he was flown to Germany to receive medical treatment. So Buhari he's not that much different to the rest of them. Yes, he has a little bit more respectable past in 1984, but I mean, the man is not without sin, man. He's in fact, I can go into way more detail about what this guy has done, you know, but anyway, I'll wait for you to ask.
So I mean, with the 2 main candidates, what does young Nigerians, do they have anything to look forward to? Yeah, I mean,
look. Nigeria is really, like I've said numerous times, is a divided country. You have one part of the country that's in complete and utter denial. And because they benefit from these very wealthy politicians, they just assume these guys.
I'm guessing that's the North. That's the North.
No. It's not a North thing. It's more of a class thing than anything. Because this is the other thing. It's in the North. The North is the poorest part of Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
Poorest part of Nigeria. In fact, it's very important that you follow the Take It Back movement, which is Omoyele Showere's movement. Because they're the only political party that's campaigning all around the country. Now, they go to the North, South, East, West, everywhere. And the reality of Nigeria is the wealthy people, the politicians, the political class, they steal and they intermingle together. Their children marry each other. That whole tribal differences doesn't happen with them. It doesn't happen with them. Now, in the North, they call I think the word in Hausa language that they speak up there, they call Buhari, I forget the name, but it ends with banza, which is basically like saying you're a thief, right? This is what the local people are saying about him, because he's not benefiting these people. In the past, people have voted tribally and culturally and ethnically rather, and religious wise. And I think this is one of the first elections where we're going to see a big change. So as far as what the youth are seeing, again, you have to go online and see what these rallies with the Take It Back movement are doing. My God, these people are mobilizing not only people on the streets all over Nigeria, but they're going into the diaspora, tapping into the people who are remitting money back into the country. There's a lot that's happening. And I really think that Buhari and Atiku have a lot. Even they are mindful of what these other people are doing. I'll give you a couple of examples. A few months ago, have you ever heard of MKO Abiola?
I have not.
So MKO Abiola was a very wealthy man. In 1993, he ran for president. First free elections, supposed to be first democratic elections in about 10 years at that point, 1993. He won the election, and unfortunately, they annulled the election. And Abacha, who was the dictator, came on and took over. Now, MKO Abiola was put in prison, right? Now, MKO Abiola was a president who, would have been president had things not worked out. Had things worked out differently. Now, Buhari recently, so MKO Abiola in the end, this is the point I was trying to make. MKO Abiola ended up dying in 1998. Now, recently, Omoyele Sowore, at one of his rallies, was saying, look, we will change, we will honor the family of MKO Abiola, because MKO Abiola really was a pioneer for this country and so on. And Buhari, within 3 days, his government decided to make Democracy Day on the day of MKO Abiola's either his death or his birthday, I forget. Right? So they were obviously cognizant of what this guy was saying. Also, Omoyele Sowore decided to say that, look, I am going to increase minimum wage to, I think it was 100,000 naira.
Right. That was just recent.
Yeah, within a few days, they said that they're going to increase it to 56,000 naira or something like that. Either way, they're keeping an eye on what is going on. Why? Because these people don't really have ideas. What they do is they monitor what the youth are saying, because at the end of the day, it's the youth that they go and get to try and intimidate people at elections. There's only so much police. I think police is only like 300,000 police in the whole of Nigeria. You look at the army is not as mobile as you think. There's not that many soldiers, especially when they're fighting wars in the north and east. Anyway, so they mobilize the youth, and this is how it's always been. And these youth sometimes are it seems as though they're getting frustrated. So these people have to also try and pander to what these people want. And so at the moment, there's a little bit of a gray area where these people, even though they think it's a foregone conclusion, they're still mindful that Omoyele Sowore, Fela Durotoye, these two candidates potentially could cause damage. And this is why none of them have really been, beaten up or arrested or shut down yet. But we'll see come February 16th how things go.
Somebody's asking, what do you think about Sowore?
Yeah, Omoyele Sowore. I've just been talking about him for the last.
Okay, I get. Yeah, so people, you think he has?
I've donated to his political party, and if anybody who's, whether you're in the diaspora, whether you're an African American, whether you're a Nigerian, wherever you're from, I strongly encourage you look into what this man has done. Look at his track record. This is not a thief. This is not a corrupt person. This is somebody who's very mindful about human rights and things like that. So, I've contributed to his political party because I believe that he is really a candidate for the future. Whether he wins or not is going to be up to the people. So I think he's the best candidate. I don't agree with everything, but I think he's the best candidate.
You think he has a shot, or?
I believe he has. I believe he has a chance simply because the youth, the people that work in the markets, the everyday people need somebody that they can identify with. You see, election campaign starts, and these politicians will come around. They will start giving 500 naira, 1,000 naira. They'll give bags of gari, bags of rice to the people and say, "Oh, vote for me." And the people are getting frustrated with it because, like I've spoken to you about this before in the past. This is called stomach infrastructure, where you're giving me food instead of actually building the road that I need or building the hospital that I need. And these people are realizing that this 500 naira, this 1,000 naira is only going to last me for so long.
Right.
You know, so these people are increasingly getting frustrated. Again, Nigeria is not a place where if you're not, you know, in the upper echelons of society, it's a very difficult place to live in. You know, when you look at the inflation that exists there, the amount of cost, the rent, the people who are just charging exorbitant prices for all sorts of everyday necessities.
Man, hold on now. Let's talk about the rent. My good friend has a 3-bedroom. I think it's like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. You want to know how much he's paying for it?
Probably like $2,000 a year.
$800 a year. In a sobo.
But you see, Diners, you have to also.
Like that's. I mean,
to you that is cheap. To you that is very cheap because you're comparing it to your standard of living here. To in Nigeria, especially. Wait, let's convert to 800 naira. Let's even just say 1,000 naira, $1,000. We're talking about approximately what, 400,000 naira a year. Now, if minimum wage is 18,000 naira a month, right? Let's just call it 20,000 naira a month. If you multiply that by 12, you can't even afford that rent.
Right.
It's not, to us, it's good. For us, it's great. And this is why I say the people who can afford it, it's a great country. To me and you, that's better way to live than being here. But to those people, they're really, really struggling. And this is why, and again, increasing the minimum wage to 100,000 naira is only increasing it to $300 or so a month, which is really embarrassing. I think Madagascar's, which is one of the lowest as well, their minimum wage is something like $400 a month, and in Nigeria, it's not even up to 100 at the moment. So you know, this is not something that we should really applaud. You know, we want to make sure that the majority of the country can actually afford to live there, not the people that live outside.
But then you have the electricity issue, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The electricity issue, and you know, Buhari has done nothing to really encourage solar. In fact, one of my closest friends moved back. He's a CFO of a solar company. You know, that solar company is having severe difficulties convincing the Ministry of what is it? Ministry of Energy. I forget what they're called. To get into solar. When you have the whole northern Nigeria that is pretty much part of the sub-Saharan region, you know, it could pretty much power the whole country. You have a lot of sunlight, even down in the south by the coast. And these people are not interested. Again, because Toyota, Yamaha, these people that supply the generators, they pay them. They pay these politicians to ensure that the generators are being brought in and people are buying the generators. My mom has 2-3 generators. I'm moving her to solar completely. Completely. She's gonna live off the grid, yeah. But that's how people live. 2-3 generators in their car, in their house. Very dangerous.
Now now somebody else that was running the Sahara Reporters.
Yeah, that's Omoyele Sowore.
Oh, that's him. Okay. Yeah, everyone loves him. Everyone loves him.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. That's the guy. And you see, for us in the diaspora, we're aware of him because of Sahara Reporters. Right. We need to, but that's why we need to contribute. We really need to contribute to his campaign because we need to ensure that
I'm gonna donate to his campaign. Hold on,
thank you, my brother. Well done, thank you. In fact, I'll send you.
Send me the link. I'll donate to it. Sure, I'll donate to this.
I'll email you his GoFundMe account, and I'll email you a telephone number for them as well.
Yeah.
You get in touch with them on your show because it's so important. This man is gonna open. If he gets in, he's gonna open up the doors for the diaspora, you know, and also open up Africa completely to a more unified front. You know, this is a guy who's brave. You know, look at some of the things he did. I mean, there's a time in New York there was this minister, very arrogant minister, showed up for a town hall meeting, and you know these town hall meetings when they come and do them abroad, they basically pay someone to bring a fake audience. Right. This woman showed up like 2-3 hours late. This guy went and shut down this whole thing, said you have no respect for your people, blah, 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 shut the whole thing down, they had to call police. You know, there's also, you know, this is a man who was, you know, there's these groups called cults in the universities, in the Nigerian universities. Cults are like extreme gangs. Like we're talking the Nigerian universities, the cults are like, what would you call it? Like the, you know, what would you call them in LA again? The Crips and Bloods, like these guys swear by whatever stupid code.
Now there was a story in Benin City of a cult like killing a whole bunch of people at a party at a university there.
Yeah, happens all the time. In fact, there was one of the most famous ones is from 1999 at University of Ife. University of Ife is
in El Ife?
Well, in Ogun State, yeah. University of Ife is named after the, yeah.
Not Ila Ife and not in Ila Ife where the Uni is.
Ila Ife is the stronghold of the kingdom, but they named the university after it, University of Ife. So it's in Abeokuta, which is the capital of Ogun State. You gotta remember the state system is different to the kingdom. It's the kingdom is in the state. So,
yeah, it's Osun. Anyway, El Ife is in Osun State, ain't it?
No, that's Ogun State.
It's not Osun.
No, Osun is where you have Oshogbo. Oshogbo is, I think you went there even.
Yeah, El Ife is in Osun State, not Ogun. I promise. No. You sure?
Ile Ife.
Ile Ife. Yeah, that's in Osun State.
I don't think so. 11. I'm almost. You got me even confused.
I'm almost positive it's in Osun State. But we'll look it up. Go ahead. Okay.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make was, so in 1999 there was this probably the most famous killing at University of Ife. Now, University of Ife had
it's Osun State. But go ahead.
University of Ife is in Osun State.
Yeah, sorry, I went to it. Okay, let me ask you: is there a University of Ile Ife and a University of Ife? Or
University of Ife
in
is different to Ile Ife. Ile Ife is the stronghold of the kingdom. It's like it's like the capital of the kingdom. But then you have two states. You have Ogun State, which has Abeokuta as the capital, and then you have Osun State, which is Oshogbo. I'm talking about the University of Ife, which is named after the kingdom, which is
in El Ife.
No,
it's not. Okay.
Abeokuta, right? Abeokuta is the capital of Ogun State. Yeah. So again, this is where we probably need to do another show where we explain how the kingdoms were added to different states. University of Ife is
it's Osun State. It's Osun State. I'm looking it up right now. It's Osun State.
What, the University of Ife?
Yeah, it's Osun State.
Okay. Anyway, I'll check it later. But let me
we'll be here all night. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We'll be here all day. Okay, so basically in 1999 you had this serious murder. Now they basically had this, you know, these are very militant times, by the way. So you had democracy was not there. What they call democracy was basically run by a lot of the politicians were basically the dictators and the soldiers, right? People in the army. So Abacha was in power. So these cults, like I was mentioning before, were extremely prominent on these university campuses because the government will use them to ensure that, you know, students are not speaking out and saying what they need to say and so on, right? Anyway, do you know that I think it was June 10th, 1999, one of these main activists, a guy called Africa, they called him Africa. That was his nickname. So they came in and paid for by the head, pretty much the dean of the university. They came in and they massacred a whole bunch of people. Pretty much all the student union representatives, as well as just innocent people. And this happens this is happening right across universities in Nigeria. So this is another thing that people needed to rid themselves from. But anyway, the point I was trying to make there was, in University of Lagos, they had one of the worst cult systems. And Omoyele Sowore was student union president, I think from 1990 or 1991. And he was, you know, beaten. He was imprisoned, detained at least 8-9 times and so on. So the cult systems, you know, this man has a track record that really, you know, is substantial. You know, it's something that we need to be. He's not somebody that we should just ignore.
Oh, somebody said DeVito was in one. DeVito went to school out here in America.
Yeah, I think he dropped out and then he went to Babcock, which is another private university in Nigeria.
Oh, okay, because he went to school in Alabama when he was out here in America.
Yeah, I don't think he finished. I don't think he finished.
Okay.
I don't think he. Oh yeah, you're right. Ile-Ife. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because I went. I went to that university. I met the dean.
No, you're right. Yeah. I stand corrected.
Yeah, I met the dean and everything. I didn't have opportunity to see the uni, but I went to the university. I met the dean, walked around campus, and everything. But this is my question, and we're a little off topic. Why do people wait till they get to college to join a gang like this? Like, you're supposed to be in college learning.
Well, they don't necessarily wait. Look, people are going for an education, right? And when you, again, my brother, the conditions in the country make it very, very, and I don't want to give too much of a pessimistic view, but the reality is, in order for you to get an education now, even in universities, where university lecturers are not even they're not even getting paid, where girls are repeatedly having sex with their lecturers. There's even a rapper, Idris Abdul Karim, who wrote a really good song about it called Mr. Lecturer, about the culture of women just sleeping with the lecturers to get away. There's even a hall in the University of Lagos called Moremi Hall, where the women are, they associate them as being prostitutes, pretty much. That's the association. People are trying to get an education because they assume that an education is the passport to the future. Now, sadly, when they get there, they encounter the cult system, they encounter the corrupt lecturers, as I mentioned, they encounter the fee hikes all of a sudden and things like that, where people who start a 4-year course end up finishing it in 8. There was a time where, the strikes are ridiculous, by the way. In fact, one of my first feature films, a film called Woolwich Boys, is about how a whole bunch of students from University of Lagos were on strike and decided to come to London and start this whole 419, this fraud thing that really is become so prominent around the world now. So a lot of people were on strike. You go in for a 4-year course, you don't finish for 10 years. So the cult system is not necessarily that, we're going to go join a gang because it's cool. It's either kill or be killed. It's one of those things. You either join the gang and get the security of being part of a cult and ensuring you have power, ensuring that your grades, you will always pass your exams, ensuring that you graduate on time. It's just another way of, surviving,
Yeah, but there was some cult stuff going on when I was in Nigeria, and I was just like, goodness. Ask about your question about Benin. Yeah, well, the cult I heard about was at the University of Benin, and they killed like 10 people or something crazy.
This was recent, right?
This is recent. Yeah, this is like the last couple of months. This is recent.
Yeah.
This was.
Well, we have a lot that needs to be changed in Nigeria.
Right.
Well, you pay the lecturers, and then you have a bad situation. You pay the lecturers, you provide living standards. The universities in Nigeria, and this is the interesting thing. All these Buhari has never been to university, by the way, but people like Goodluck Jonathan, who has a university degree, is one of the few presidents we've had since the early 60s, and I think Shagari, who have ever had a university degree. And at the time he went to university was free. They benefited from that because it was subsidized by the government. The halls of residence were, a little bit more civilized. You could have, in an 8-bedroom room, in an 8-room dormitory, there were 8 people. Now it's something like, it could be even up to 20 in some rooms, So that's where you had this proliferation of private university, like the one Davido went to, Babcock. You also have another big one, which is called Covenant University, which is founded by a church. You have these pastors setting up churches, politicians setting up churches. Sorry, not churches, setting up universities. All of them setting up universities that the people that serve them can't even afford to go to.
Right.
When these guys can literally just take that money and pump it into the state universities, and things would be better.
What? So out of the two, out of Buhari and Atiku. I keep saying I keep putting the K before the T. Atiku.
Atiku Abubakar, by the way, is banned. I think he has a court case in the United States. by the way. So
okay, yeah, right. Okay, this is okay. I heard about that. Now did he threaten to kill somebody in America or something, like, or what happened, or?
Yeah, and also I think one of the major things with him is, okay, so a little bit background of Atiku Abubakar. So he was, I think he worked in the customs in Nigeria. That was how he started climbing. Right. 1990, I think when Obasanjo came into power, he came in as the vice president. Now, Atiku Abubakar is not someone who is somebody who is particularly very intelligent or anything like that. Now, he's bought a whole bunch of properties in the United States and had all sorts of issues. And I think one of the things that they're trying to get him in the US courts is for an attempted murder case. So, but of course, you know, if you become president, you have a diplomatic immunity, and so you can travel freely. So these are, you know, in fact, his running mate, there's a joke, I'll send you a photo joke that's flying around. His running mate is Peter Obi. Peter Obi was the governor of Anambra State, my state, right? Now, Peter Obi is so-called, they've given him awards, this thing they call Silver Band Man of the Year. They gave him that award because they said he was, he's not corrupt, right? And the joke is at the moment that they need somebody who has no corruption cases to go alongside Atiku Abubakar, because it will allow the process of becoming president and re-entry into the US a lot easier for him. So Atiku's a piece of work, my brother. And you know, his travel ban is it's ironic. Where in the world?
So how can he be run?
Where in the world? Sorry.
So how can he be run for president?
He can run for president in Nigeria because he's not under trial in Nigeria.
Yeah, but still,
you would think that, right? You would think that. But it's, you know, it's the first time in the world that somebody who's charged with a case outside of the country has, I mean, Charles Taylor in Liberia and Sierra Leone, you had John Doe and, Samuel K. Doe and all these guys. I mean, these are all people who had cases elsewhere and, you know, managed to get into power.
Let me ask you this. So this whole North, all the politicians come from the North.
What do you mean? What do you mean all the politicians?
Like all like Buhari, like all the politics, you know, that's why they moved the capital of Abuja to the north. You know,
well, it's in the center. It's strategically placed in the center of the country.
Oh, the center.
Now, Abuja is right bang in the center. But the interesting thing is that it's near Niger State, which is Babangida's hometown, Babangida's state, basically. Babangida was the president who decided to move it to Abuja, the capital to Abuja. He's also the one who kind of started this whole state system. Well, expanded the state system rather and made it 30 states, and it's still since become 36. So Babangida is Abuja is technically in the center of the country, technically.
Right.
But the north is what you call the north. The largely
people say like
right way of saying it. Hausa speaking,
right?
Those kind of people. Yes. Abuja will be in that part of the country. Yeah.
Because you know, people say like after colonialism, they put the Hausa and the Fulani, the North, in the British in a strategic position where they would rule and serve the best interests of Britain. Is that true?
Yeah. So before the amalgamation in 13 or 14, the North and the South of Nigeria are governed separately. You have different governor generals. And they decided for economic purposes of Britain to put them together. Now, the North and the South, even the South, you know how diverse the South is. You know, you were in the Southwest. If you go to the Southeast or the South, what they call the South-South, they're completely different people. All three are different people. Even in the Southeast where I come from, you still have Calabars, Igbos, Ishakiris. You know, you have all types of different people who are very, very different. The North is similar, but I guess the Hausa kind of dialects, like Hausa Fulani were kind of similar, but you still have a Muslim Christian issue over there too. But anyway, they decided to put them together for the purpose of economic, to link Nigeria together. And that's why you started seeing a lot of Igbo people going to the North and doing trade, because Igbos had already established trade in the South and moved to the North. And then that's actually one of the precursors to the Civil War of 1967, where a lot of Igbos were massacred because the so-called Northerners didn't like them being there and taking all their business. But even till today, you have a large demographic of Igbo people living in the north. It's in fact, probably 1 in 3 Nigerian Igbo people that you meet either have a family member or themselves grew up in the north or somehow connected to the north. Probably 1 in 3, I would say.
Okay, let's see what else we got here in the chat room. Someone's asking, are you from Anambra State?
I'm from Anambra State. I'm from Onitsha, which is the old market town there, or city rather.
Okay, somebody said Atiku is money laundering, not murder. It's money laundering.
Yeah, but this is so I think we talked about this before on the show. So he's bought all these houses in Potomac in Maryland or DC, wherever it was, and we've got court cases to do with taxes. The murder thing, though, I don't know if the U.S. government is chasing him for that, but there's some murder cases that he has, which have been also exposed on Sahara Reporters. So, look, these guys all have blood on their hands, by the way.
Right.
If we start talking about murder cases, okay, let me since we've brought that up, let's talk about Obasanjo's reign. Now, there were one in particular is a man called Bola Ige. He's a prominent politician who was murdered. He was supposedly a friend of Obasanjo, but it's widely accepted and reported by Sahara reporters that Obasanjo and Atiku, by default, were involved in his murder. And this is something which, they tried to take it to like international courts and to the US and things like that. So there is that we can go into. But let me not even go into that too much because it's.
Go ahead.
No, I don't want to speculate too much.
Okay.
I'll end up giving you too much of my own opinion. But there is the association of the general consensus is Obasanjo and by the default Atiku were involved in his murder. It's assassination, really. And even Governor of Lagos State, Funshaw Williams. I mean, a lot of these things you can connect to the people who were in power at the time because, you've heard of the death of Ken Saro-Wiwa, right? Ken Saro-Wiwa from 1995, the guy from the Niger Delta. He was the activist. He was ordered killed by Abacha, the president of the country. You must have heard of Ken Saro-Wiwa.
Who?
Ken Saro-Wiwa.
I don't know who is that.
Okay, so he was basically an activist in the Niger Delta. He was a playwright as well as an author, businessman. And he was one of the people who used to say that, look, in the Niger Delta, the things that Shell is doing is terrible.
Okay.
It's evil. In the end, he went to court. Him and I think 7 other people were hung.
Oh, wow.
And Nigeria was suspended from, I think it was the Commonwealth. Is it the Commonwealth? The Commonwealth, and I think temporarily the UN for a period from like 95 to 98. I know because Nigeria couldn't go to the African Nations Cup in 1998 because of it. So, these were big cases which Nigerian presidents had been accused of murder. And even though it wasn't tried internationally, I mean, they've been putting pressure even till today. They're putting pressure on the government to seek some type of compensation for this guy's death, but nothing's been happening. But basically what I'm trying to say is every subsequent government has been involved in a crucial assassination of somebody prominent. So This is just, Atiku's skeletons will come out too. Don't worry.
Now, do the entertainers in Nigeria get involved in elections in a similar fashion the way the American entertainers do?
Well, look, in the same way that American entertainers won't get involved with the grassroots politicians who are trying to make it.
True.
Same thing in Nigeria. Nigerians will get, because these prominent politicians will invite them to, perform at their daughter's wedding.
Case in point, Davido performed at Aliko Dagante's daughter's wedding.
I'm not surprised. I mean, but these people, at the end of the day, but these musicians, for the most part, are people who, they're trying to just make money. Many of them, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, many of them aren't really passionate about music. It's just another way to succeed and get out of a rut. In the same way in the States, not everyone is really passionate about rapping, but some of them blow up. You know, in Nigeria, it's a little bit easier because you have auto-tune, the vocoder music, and then, you know, they can just go and do the same beat and, you know, be successful. So look, these guys aren't that concerned with what these politicians do. Yes, they'll complain like everybody else. But I'll give you an example even. Davido's, if you ever watch any of his videos, his cousin, B Red. Is it B Red? Yeah, light-skinned guy.
But I know Davido's uncle ran for governor, you know.
This is what I'm saying. B Red, the light-skinned guy, which is his cousin, is he ran, he just lost though, but he was a senator, I think, for the past 2 years or something like that. Senator or House of Representatives, one of them. So he's in power. You know, these are people who are part of the political elite. Don't get it twisted. Davido's dad did how many $1 billion deal a few years ago? I mean, for you to get a deal like that, you're in cahoots with these governments. So it's in your best interest to shut the hell up and not talk about any Showore or Fela Durotoye or any other candidates. Talk about the main guys. That's it.
Somebody's asking, what tribe dominates Abuja?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, in Abuja is one place, to be fair.
Right.
Despite its location, you can find every type of Nigerian there simply because, you know, it's a capital. People move there to benefit themselves. But certainly the areas around it are Hausa speaking / Fulani speaking, and the languages that are related to Hausa and Fulani. Those are the people that tend to live around that area. So my sister, for example, lives in Abuja. Her staff that works in her house is largely from that area, so they speak Hausa. But also in terms of the politicians that live there, because of the fact that Hausa people for a long time have dominated Nigerian politics. You know, you tend to find former governors, former presidents, all living in, you know, you were there, were you there on the 1st of October for Independence Day?
I came that following day because I didn't want to get caught up in the Independence Day shenanigans. But somebody told me the Independence, like, people were telling me they celebrate Independence Day more here in America, Nigerians do, than they do in Nigeria. That's what somebody told me.
You guys take it very seriously. I mean, people go out to clubs and stuff like that, but other than it's a public holiday, people don't go to work. But it's I mean, what are you celebrating? You know, what are you celebrating?
Right.
58 years of what? No light.
Right.
You know, what are you celebrating? But anyway, what I was trying to say was, if you watch the thing on television and they show the list of presidents, you have obviously you have Goodluck Jonathan, you have Abdul Salam Abubakar, you have Babangida, you know, you have Yakubu Gowon. These are all heads of states that have been largely Hausa speaking. You know, so these are all former presidents that are there.
Somebody's asking about Eko Atlantic. I didn't make it there.
Eko Atlantic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I haven't been there myself. But from what I understand, I mean, what is it? It's just an extension of, you know, it's just another city that they're trying to build to attract the wealthy. I mean, look, Dinah, yeah, look, we and also I think it's very dangerous to promote things like Eko Atlantic.
Why do you say that?
Because to people around the world, they will look at a picture like that and be like, oh my God, this is the Africa they don't show you. This is the Nigeria they don't show you.
But do you think that's needed? Because you don't understand how many Africans get mad at me for covering Africa the way I do, as far as.
And by the way, that is the way you're supposed to do it, because the people that are going to live in the Eko Atlantic are the same people who live in the very wealthy areas of Nigeria.
Right.
Look, unfortunately, Eko Atlantic, as beautiful as it is not going to make a subsidized housing for the bulk of Lagos State. They're not. They're making the houses probably competitive with US house prices. You know, they're trying to make an elitist city. And this is what they're doing, by the way. Babatunde Fashola, the former governor of Lagos State, did a very good job at trying to eradicate real Lagosians, who are really, you know, we're talking about the majority of the state, the majority of Lagos are just everyday people. The very, very wealthy ones that can afford to live in Eko Atlantic, they're going and stealing land from the local people. You see, Lekki, which is the island place where everybody likes to live now. Lekki,
Yeah,
those areas
yeah.
were populated by the poor before. You know, and they go and steal their land. In fact, Fashola took a lot of land from traditional rulers and started building. Lekki is all reclaimed land. Well, for the most part, it's reclaimed land, which is why it's constantly flooded. I don't know if you went to Lekki when you're in Lagos.
Well, there's Lekki Phase 1 and there's Lekki Phase 2, correct?
Phase 2, yeah. You have all these VGC, Victoria Garden City. That's another attempt to build Eko Atlantic. It was the same type of thing they started 15 years ago. These are all they're just trying to make bigger and bigger houses for richer and richer people. The mark of a nation is how you look after the lowest. And when you have the lowest as the largest population, if you're not looking after them, then you're going to have a crisis at some stage. And we're in it at the moment. I'm not a big fan of like promoting Eko Atlantic. I'm more of a fan of showing culture, showing the people how they really live, and see if we can change that.
Now, everyone's speaking of election rigging as far as, you know, the election being rigged. Do you think a lot of that's going to happen?
Well, we saw it a few weeks ago in Osun State. There was a what was it? They were doing some local elections there, and we saw rigging on a ridiculous scale where soldiers were. I mean, this has been exposed. People in the chat room can go and look into it, man. It's been exposed. In fact, the kingmakers of the rigging in Nigeria are really the political parties. I don't want to give too much away, but I know someone personally, very, very close to me, who was involved in, and I won't say the states because I don't want to expose them, involved in the 2015 elections for, let's just say a local politician, not a governor, but just below the governor, or just below that sort of level. Now, what he did was he ensured that, so he was told, look, we show up to this location and spread some money around, just like the mafia do. Now he got there and he saw another group of young guys who had a bag of money like him from the different political party. And before you know it, some members of his group were beaten up, right? Now they eventually went and managed to get the people who were part of INEC, which is the officiating body of the elections, and they started stuffing ballot boxes, literally stuffing. They knew they were going to do that anyway, but they just thought they'd try and get some fair votes. Now, that will still happen. The scale at which it happens in this next election is where I don't think it'll be as much. Why? Because of social media.
Right.
You see, now you can film the counting of the votes, because it's not going to happen in every area. But the areas like where I live in Lagos, for example, they'll go, you can film it, they count it, post it online immediately. So when INEC comes back and says, okay, in Lagos South, there were 1,800 votes for PDP and 0 votes for APC. The people you could just go on the video to see whether that was true or not. And that is too much drama for the Nigerian government to accept. So we'll see something different. There's definitely going to be rigging, but we'll see. I think there's more of a chance now with these camera phones to expose the wrongs. Because then if somebody wants to file a lawsuit and say that this was incorrect, then they have a justified position to do it. And if Nigeria wants to be seen as a free and fair country, they will have to accept it, because they're afraid of how the US and UK and all these countries see them, how they see them publicly.
Right.
They're aware of what they do privately, obviously.
Well, hopefully it's a clean election, and there's no rigging, and hopefully there's no riots. I know how Africans like to get during election season. Burning tires in the middle of the road and hell.
Yeah, but then those are the bullies that have been sent by the politicians to go and ensure that votes are counted and people are intimidated. But if you go back to the time of like the mafia in America, I'm talking like 50, 60 years. That's what they do. People will go and show up there to vote. They'll pull them aside, say, vote for this people. This bullying tactic, it's just that Nigeria hasn't evolved from it. You're still having to get this PVC, which is like your card that allows you to vote. And that PVC, there've already been reports of them being faked, like people duplicating them and You know, so, you know, I mean, they've not made it even sophisticated. There are ways you can rig an election that that are way more sophisticated. And these men haven't even gone clued up to that. They're still using old tactics. But the burning will be there. There'll be some people beaten. Unfortunately, some people probably die too. But I think for the most part, we'll have a fair election, I think.
Well, I hope so too, because like I said, you know, Nigeria is. Let me ask you the role of Nigeria in regards to the Black diaspora. How important is it to have a stable Nigeria, and how would that affect everyone else, especially Africa?
100%. Again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If Congo and Nigeria get it right, it's going to be a domino effect on the entire continent.
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria in particular, because Nigeria, like I've said before, Nigeria has people around the world who are achieving great things and have been consistently achieving great things. Now, those people no doubt have impacted people all around the world. In England, Nigerians are probably, after Indians, are probably the #1 immigrants in this country. Everybody knows them. So similar to Italy and in the United States, I think Nigerians are probably, they say the most educated or something like that, the most...
educated. No, I want to say educated and I want to say wealthiest.
Yeah. So these are things which we are able to do outside the country. Now imagine you can translate that inside the country, where the innovation, the education is being promoted, and we are in charge of promoting ourselves. Because again, all these people that are in America doing all these great things, they're not promoted as Nigerians, they're promoted as Americans or Nigerian Americans, whatever. You know, when Nigeria starts to do well, because African American people in the diaspora want to go back to Africa. They've seen that, it's not the environment for them to live in the West. And I'll say this clearly: African people of black skin, whatever you want to call yourself, have no place in the Western world. The culture, the society, the weather.
I agree.
Geographically, geologically, we should not be here.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this before I forget. So here in America, we have this idea. Well, we've been here 400 years. We built this country. We are vested in this country. I'm not even considering Africa. Like, what would be your response to people who think like that?
Well, I understand the mentality of somebody who thinks like that. It's not their fault. I mean, it's not their fault to think like that. I don't judge them for it, but I understand. I know categorically that is the wrong opinion to have. You see, also, these same people, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the majority of African Americans don't have passports. So their idea of traveling is to go to like Miami or somewhere different to where they're from, you know. And even America, look at size-wise, is a continent in itself. You know, United States is a continent. So you feel this is your world. You put on your TV, you have your 1,000 channels, and they're all American channels. You know, when you see something remotely foreign, you're like, oh, that's far away. But once you open up your horizons, broaden your horizons, and start to see the world differently, and this is why YouTube and what you do, search for Uhuru, what a whole bunch of other people do, is very important, because you're disrupting the traditional media, which says that, okay, the perception of everywhere else apart from America is bad. Europe has Brexit, England has Brexit, so everybody's going to die tomorrow. In Italy, they have Berlusconi, who's ruined the country, and now the country is falling apart. In Africa, everybody has bees on their flies on their faces and big stuff. These things, once you start to find alternative ways of viewing and accepting information, you'll see that these things are debunked. The next thing for you to do is to travel. Now, once you actually travel and you see that the world has different parts to it, different types of ways of thinking, you will go to Europe first, and most African Americans will go to places like Europe and Asia and think, oh my God, this is amazing. But they'll soon realize that I'm still a Black person and I still am treated different. Now, some of them still don't accept the Africa thing, but they want they're content being away from America. Well, they will soon realize that this place is no good for me either. And then the last resort is for them to go to Africa. But instead of going back to Africa, they'll go back to America, you know? And this is really the mentality that we need to try and dissolve. We need to start getting people to see a little bit more about Africa and how it really is, but also understand the culture that has gone into making us think that America, I've been here for 400 years, I'm invested in the country, or thinking that Africa is not where I came from. It may be where my ancestors came from, but it's not where I come from. We need to go and try and tackle the mentality that allows us to think like that in the first place.
Right.
Once we do that, then we won't have to do a mass exodus. People will just be getting up and going. People will be burning their US passports, the British passports. Everybody will be going back home.
Exactly. What we'll do, I know it's getting late where you're at. We'll go ahead and close out. But how should, like, somebody like myself who, I know the Nigerian election is very important to me because I love Nigeria and I'm gonna be vested in Nigeria. In fact, I'm already vested in Nigeria. People outside of Nigeria who think it's not important, how would you change their mind, and how can one get involved? Even though we can't vote, technically, I can't. How should one get involved in the election?
Well, for a start, you can contribute to the different political parties. But let me just say, before you even do that, it's very important to understand the background. You see, traditional media, when it comes to elections in Nigeria, has always been controlled by elites. In fact, many politicians own newspapers and own TV channels. So the information is always going to be biased. So always try and speak to people who know a little bit about Nigeria and how Nigeria works. But you'll find most people have a pessimistic view anyway. But as far as this election, it's very important. At least I'm saying this to you. Most people don't know me personally, but at least take my word for it and go and do your research about Omoyele Sowore and see whether, if you were a Nigerian, whether you think this person is a viable candidate versus the other people. And then ask the people who you speak to every day that are Nigerian whether or not the country has changed in their lifetime. And then ask them who is responsible. They will point to the people who are running for president in APC and PDP. In other words, Atiku and Buhari. They will point to that generation. So I would say right now, go ahead and get involved in APC Omoyele Sowore. I'll spell it Omoyele Sowore. Go and look into him. He puts all his rallies on YouTube. He's done a few rallies in the States already, town hall meetings. Go there, ask questions. I think he's been everywhere in the States recently. He was in Dallas a few weeks ago, New York. He lives in New York. I think his wife and kids live in New York, so he's there all the time. Go and look into him and contribute. They have a $2 million target on that they were trying to raise. $2 million is nothing for these Nigerian politicians. Nothing. But $2 million is what this guy needs in order to fulfill his mandate and feel like he'll get something. So contribute. Do whatever you can.
All right, man, brother Abuah, we appreciate you joining us. How can everybody get in contact with you? And also, if you want to, speak on your documentary a little bit, or not, it's up to you. I know we're going to do a separate show on that, but go ahead.
Yes, sir, my brother. First of all, let me say, as Yoruba people say, Eshe, and as my Igbo brothers would say, Dalu, so. Thank you very much for having me on. Usuals, and by the way, thank you so much for all the support. My YouTube channel is Ọnuọra Abuah, Onuora Abuah, Abuah. I also have one AEA Films, which is also on Instagram. Now, myself and my wife have our own channel called the Abuah Team, the Abuah Team. In fact, we're going live immediately after this show.
Okay.
We do basically talking about love, relationships, the connection between a man and a woman. We try and be as very logical and historical about it. In fact, that probably get you on one day.
Okay. All right. Hey, I love come on. You just tell me when. Just tell me when.
In fact, I hope I'll be in touch with you anyway. But we're going live immediately after this. So if you go to the Abuah Team, that's the channel. Log on, chat, and obviously watch us live and see and ask questions. Because we're myself and my wife been together 8 years. We have 3 kids. We're moving back to Africa next year. And we really don't hide anything when it comes to relationships. We understand the importance historically of us being together. So yeah, please, if you can, join in.
Absolutely. Well, brother, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, make sure you go to search for Uhuru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. I head to Senegal next Tuesday. So, you know, I'm going to be getting a lot of footage. So I might go dark on the, as far as the live streaming and as far as the uploading for a couple weeks again. It's AEA Films is the Instagram, correct?
Yeah, everything is AEA Films, Instagram, YouTube, and my website.com.
And guys, Doug is posting the information in the chat. Shout out to Doug, the greatest moderator on the planet. So Doug is posting the information in the chat. So guys, just click on that and I'll take you to everywhere. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, all that good stuff. Subscribe. Make sure you go to Brother Abuah's sites and subscribe and join in all that good stuff. Until next time, family, peace.
Thank you, my brother.
No problem.